Welcome Amisha. Welcome Rajul. Hi Dr. Rajul, how are you? Lovely to see you here. Hi Guneet. Yes, amazing. Welcome. And to my friends here on Facebook. How are you guys doing? Well, we're in week one of the lockdown in UAE being lifted. And after almost 3 months, people have gone back to their normal life, or let's say the new normal. Out here in the UAE, everything's opened up. We have offices working at full capacity as long as you maintain a 2 meter distance. We have the malls are open, the beaches are open, and it kind of surprises me how the government can go that lenient with opening everything up. But I guess it's a choice between your life and your livelihood. So either way, I guess they got to do what they got to do. How are you guys doing? I'd like to know. So we have people here from Facebook, from YouTube, and my friends on Instagram. Welcome to everyone who's joining right now. Every Saturday, we get together where we talk about various topics that you can talk about, engage with me in order to invest in your personal and professional development. Every Saturday, thanks to COVID, this is something that I took up as something I wanted to do, and I'm so happy that I've successfully done this for 8 weeks now, and it's been 2 months where every Saturday we meet at 5 p.m. live over here on my different social platforms. And today, what we are talking about is how to master your narrative. How to master your narrative. So, when I announced this topic, I had people write to me saying, "Oh, Avneet, are you going to talk about storytelling?" And I was like, "Yes, I am going to talk about storytelling, but it is going to be with a twist." So, you guys need to really hang out through this session because I promise you, if nothing else, it will spark some insight. So, I need you guys to cope up with me, be with me as I take you through this. So, for those of you who know me, many of you know me as being the presenter, the live MC, who did all these corporate events, who did branded content on TV. Many of you know me as the educator and the coach, where I teach people communication. But very few of you know that I have a deep seated passion for psychology. When I was in school, which now feels like a while back, but again, I don't want to age myself. But okay, so I went to Delhi board, though I grew up in Abu Dhabi. So there was science, commerce, and psychology. There was no arts. And apparently, psychology was supposed to be for everyone who couldn't manage science or commerce. However, I managed, as much as I was always inclined, I had the scores to enter science. I though I could never see myself getting into medicine because I could never cut up people or deal with the sight of blood. Even today, that's one thing that can make me faint. How many of you guys, I don't know, you guys share that phobia, but I'm thoroughly phobic about blood. So science was not an option. Commerce was like, okay, if I can't get there, it's the midway. But I so hope and wish that back then I would have taken psychology. And if I wouldn't have really, if that perception of the field was not the same. Little did I know, but this never too late. So today I'm here, and I have to say I am so passionate about this topic simply because I have always been amazed by one question, which is why do we do what we do? And I have committed to being a lifelong learner and a student of life, where it's my constant endeavor to try and understand human behavior, to understand what is it that really separates some people, or let's say high performers, from the others. Why is it that some people look at an obstacle as a challenge, whereas others look at an obstacle as something that ends the game, something that is the end of the story or a deal breaker. And the truth is, the difference almost always is in two aspects, and that is mindset and confidence. enough and more times I keep harping about these two words because I genuinely believe that they have a very strong hold on our lives, because it's our mindset that drives our behavior, our actions, and everything that we create for ourselves in life. How many of you guys agree with that? So, I have people out here. There are people on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I mean, I know that I started this entire journey with doing this on Instagram Live. And halfway through the journey, I figured that there is something called multi streaming where I can do this across different platforms. So, you guys on Facebook, I have, I jumped on this wagon a little later, but I would really like to know who is new to these sessions with me. Put in new in the comments box and tell me if you're watching this for the first time, you're around for the first time. Hit the comments box. Tell me if you're new. All right, lovely. So, where was I? As I mentioned, I've always been the student or I've learned to become a student of life, and I'm thoroughly passionate about studying human behavior and how mindset and confidence are the two prime factors that really regulate our actions, our behavior, and most importantly, our results in life. It is what they are the two factors that define the quality of our experience of life. And I believe that if we are able to understand this, navigate our way through it, then life just becomes a beautiful experience. If you agree, send me a thumbs up, send me a wave. So that's what brings me to the topic for today, which is how to master your narrative. When I talk about narrative, what do I mean? It's almost like when you go to a movie theater and you watch this storyline which has different heroes, heroines, villains. It has different characters that play their role, and that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today, but in the realm of your life and in the realm of your own mindset, and how all of us, with our limited understanding of human emotion, create these different personas which define different emotional states for us. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So you guys hang around. So when we talk about mastering your narrative, what do I mean by that? I mean, it is about, hi Tarushi. Hello everyone who's just joined. Thank you for joining. So where was I? When we talk about how to master your narrative, what I'm talking about is self talk. It is what we keep doing all the freaking time. Well, certainly, I do strongly believe that communication is thoroughly one of the most fundamental bricks or the fundamental pillars that define success, or they create any dream as a reality. Because when we talk about communication, certainly external communication is important for us to survive in the world, for us to make meaningful relationships, for us to express our ideas. There's no doubt that external communication is absolutely essential for us to exist in the real world. But over time, what I have come to give more weightage to is the internal communication. And what's crazy is, if there are 24 hours in the day, and if we are to really look into the kind of time we spend about, you can say, 10 or 15% of our awake time talking to others, talking to people, which now during COVID, even that, for some of us may have been challenged. But we are talking to people for about 10 to 15% of our awake time. The rest of the time, we are constantly talking to ourselves. We are in non-stop communication with ourselves. We have this tape running in our mind. Constantly, we are in conversation with ourselves. And that is what I mean when we say self talk. That is what I mean when we say learning to master your narrative, because there are more than 2000 courses out there that will go and teach you how to, master your presentation skills. If that's what you learn, I do that as well. But what I would like to share with you today as a simple thought is to also learn to invest in self mastery, to also learn to invest or take note of that internal dialogue that we are constantly engaged in and the kind of communication we are having with ourselves. So, if you think about it, the human mind, how do we process information? When we are when we are out there trying to make sense of life, how do we make sense of life? It is because of all the sensory stimulus where, our sense of sight, taste, smell, sound, all of these send in impulses and information into the logic center of our mind. And our mind has to bifurcate this information through all the different sensory stimulus it has, which is primarily, you can say, visual imagery and sound. These are the two primary senses that are always at play. And, this almost makes me think of have you ever wondered why did our grandmothers tell us stories? They could have very well played games with us. They could have done so many things. Why did our grandmothers engage with us in stories? It could be your grandfather too, but why I'm saying that is because stories have a way of painting a visual picture. When we listen to a story, we are able, with the usage of words, with the language that we use, we are able to visualize or imagine a visual, you can say, painting of different images. And with everything that we listen to, the words that enter our consciousness, these words become a part of our processing system. So it's almost like if you're using a computer and your mind is the software, your, what do you call it? The commands that you give it in terms of visual imagery and sound become the command or the code that you give the human mind. And with on these two bases is how the human mind remembers these stories. And with these stories, our grandmothers would always want us with all that visual imagery that sparks emotion within us. That is how the message always remains with us. The moral of the story stays with us simply because we are able to experience that story through our sense of sight and sound that sparks human emotion. Don't you think that's crazy? I know it's like a lot of science, and for some of you it might be like, oh, that is why I like stories so much. That's why I'm a movie buff. And it is crazy. Human beings love listening to stories. They love the idea of, being able to paint visual imagery, being able to spark emotion. And that is how they experience such a range of, experiences or human emotions in someone else's story. But you know what the problem is? The problem becomes when you get trapped in a story. The problem is when you get trapped in a story, and I am going to be throwing some light on that in just a few minutes, but you hang out with me while I just take a quick look into the comments for today. So, who all do I have with me today? I have Amisha, I have Rehman, I have Guneet, I have Sumit, I have Sushil. Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Tarushi, Sheikh, Rushab, Meghna, big waves and hello to all you guys. And here on Facebook, I have Arjun Chopra. Hello to you, Sandeep Sheta. Thank you for joining regularly. I remember seeing you for my last couple of lives as well. And thank you for being around. So, for those of you who've just joined, today we're talking about how to master your narrative. And by narrative, I mean that communication, that self talk that we have happening with us all the time. We may not engage with others as much as we engage with ourselves. And if we are able to master our internal communication, master our internal dialogue, it completely defines the experience of your life. It is your internal communication, it is your self talk that defines the quality of your life. And the thing with self talk is it could be positive or it could be negative. And why is it said that, oh, think positive, be optimistic, or invest in positive thinking? Why do they say these things? It's because when we think positive, when we are thinking, we are using language, we are affirming certain words, phrases, sentences to ourselves, and words have meaning, words have resonance, words are how we make sense of life around us. Words are what really control our outcomes in life. And what I would, if there's one message you can take away from today's live session, that is this: no matter what, if you want to be successful, you got to master your internal dialogue, because it is this internal dialogue, it is this choice between positive or constant negative self talk that defines everything. It defines your confidence, it defines the quality of your relationships, it defines whether or not you take action or you take the right decisions in life. Everything comes down to this internal dialogue. And I'm going to be sharing with you a few quick tips and strategies that you can put into play to master your narrative. So hang around. So, when we talk about self talk, what do I mean? When I talk about this internal tape running all the time, what is that internal tape? It is our thoughts, it is the questions that we have, it is the beliefs, it is, you can say, the different ideas that come up for us. So it is our thoughts, it is our beliefs, it is our questions, it is our ideas. A combination of all these different things is how our self talk gets formed. Or, wait a second, I need to sneeze. Where was I? Okay, so our self talk is the sum total of our thoughts, questions, our ideas, and our beliefs. Talking about beliefs, this is an entire new topic which I will be talking about in the coming weeks, because it is, oh my God, there's so much to talk about out there. But today I'm going to try and keep it as concise and bite sized so that you take away one prime message. And when we talk about self talk and we talk about all these different things, the different tape that is running in our mind, we have a choice between positive and negative. When we invest in positive words or positive communication or positive dialogue as our internal and our external dialogue, I did mention to you that words have resonance. But when we talk about negative self talk, this is what incapacitates you. It is what keeps you stuck. And hold on for a second. I'm going to give you some examples so that you are able to understand what I mean. So, you may have experienced where someone says, oh, I failed and embarrassed myself. That is someone who is with a negative mindset, or a person who experiences negative self talk. Whereas someone else who is a relative optimist, or who is a relative, a person who invests in positive self talk, would say something like, I'm proud of myself for even trying. That took courage. I did not fail, but that was a learning lesson. And it is as simple as that. Your self talk creates your perspective. And that's what I'm trying to say. If there's the message that I want you to take away today is, if you become aware of your internal dialogue, if you become aware of that tape that you are running in your mind, it is what frames your perspective. It is what frames your outcome. It is what creates your worldview. So be mindful of that. And with that, I'm going to share with you some quick facts that I came across when we talk about self talk. So Healthline magazine did a research over 15 years, and they documented people that are optimists and that people who are constantly a victim of negative self-talk. And as a result of this, what they found in this study that they conducted over 15 years, they found that people with positive self-talk have high performance and live longer. People with positive self-talk or with a positive narrative are people who perform better in life, and these are people who live longer. And some of the benefits that you will see, or some of the the characteristics you will see in these people, is they have increased vitality, they have greater life satisfaction, they have an improved immune function, they have cardiovascular strength, they have an experience of reduced pain, and the list goes on and on and on. So, to summarize, positive self talk, hold on. I've been having a dry throat for like, I don't know, so long. So I hope it's not COVID. But anyway, so we were talking about positive self talk and how positive self talk creates the experience of your life. And it comes with proven record of high performance and high levels of well being. So, there's also one thing or something that I read, which was praise, love, approval, and compliments. Praise, love, approval, and compliments are like pizza. They are always amazing as long as they last. And that is the challenge, when we talk about positive self talk or our sense of identity or our sense of self worth, where people suffer between being able to choose between positive and negative self talk is because people who experience negative self talk have always experienced that positive reinforcement externally, and when it does not come in, when that sense of compliment or that approval or that acceptance or that praise does not come in from others, these are people who tend to doubt themselves. These are people who will question, am I not good enough? What am I doing wrong? Why are people not praising me? And the list goes on. So, praise, love, approval, and compliments, in short, ego boosts, are like pizza. They're amazing as long as they last. So that was an interesting take that I heard about positive self-talk. But when we talk about negative self-talk is something that has killed so many dreams in the bud. So many dreams in the bud. And when we talk about negative self-talk, what am I talking about? You might identify one of these typical patterns. So people who are experiencing negative self-talk, you will always notice one of the four common characteristics that I'm about to share with you. That is, number one, personalizing. These are people who blame themselves for everything. Talk about magnifying, which is the second key characteristic. People with negative self-talk, the smallest thing, they always blow it out of proportion. It's always, why me? That is one of the key things you will see. Or these are people that catastrophize, where they always expect the worst and they never, weigh the odds of things can go well, but they always expect the worst and most often experience the worst. And lastly, polarizing. So it is personalizing, magnifying, catastrophizing, and polarizing. These are the four typical behavioral traits you'll see in somebody that invests in negative self-talk. I didn't talk about polarizing, and polarizing is about right or wrong, black or white. They always need to be this or that. If they don't get that closure, then these are people who are always hanging in the middle in assumption and presumption. So, in all these four different behavioral types, you will always see that these are guys who reflect negative self talk. And if that is you, then you need to make sure that you are mindful and you are aware of this behavior. So, where were we? All right. So I think that brings me to where we were talking about stories. Yeah. How do we form stories? With the smallest, negative experience that we have in life, the human mind has the perfect capacity for creating a story. It's one thing when you go to the movie theater and you're enjoying your caramel popcorn and it's a storyline that has different highs and lows and you are watching someone else's story. But the truth is, all of us are storytellers. You, I, all of us are storytellers. And if you are stuck in any of these negative patterns, or you are feeling like, oh, why does this always happen to me? Or you are magnifying, polarizing, catastrophizing all of these different patterns, that is because we create stories that do not serve us. We create stories that inhibit us. And when we are not able to process information, when we are not able to process emotion that we are going through, so how do you explain that? Let's say, okay, let's think of a mother and a child. Yeah. So when the child is born, the child is the center of the universe. The mother is always there. The mother is always comforting the child, X, Y, Z. The child is the mother of the universe. Let's say when the child gets a little older, he gets he becomes 3 or 4 years old. And the first time the mother shouts at the child, what happens? The child is not able to process that reaction. He's not able to process this emotion or this situation, and his mind tends to jump to a conclusion. The conclusion is, oh, mama doesn't love me. Mama, I'm not good enough. Mama doesn't love me. And that story that is baseless, that story that has no reason, no truth, just because you couldn't comprehend it, you couldn't process what happened, your mind jumped to a conclusion. It tried to, it, unconsciously, it created a story. And we are so amazing. If there isn't an actual story, we can totally fabricate a story. Yeah, so we can come up with so much drama that, oh my God, this always happens to me. La 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 la. And that dialogue goes on. So I hope this has been an interesting, insight for all of you, where my only question to all of you today is, who is the puppet master of your story? Who is the puppet master of your story? Are you aware that you are playing a story? Because you certainly are. And if that story is a disempowering one, then you are responsible for the negative experience of your life. And I request you to pull those strings back, to take control of it, and consciously change that story into an empowering one. So I truly hope that was helpful and that makes you think about all those negative tapes that you're running in your mind, and it gives you a sense of, okay, did I create this? Or is there a fact? Or am I cooking this up? Or is there some true fact to this? And that is the only thing that will help you distinguish fact, fiction, and story. That is what I want you to think about today. Whatever limitation you are facing in life, wherever you are stuck in life, all I want you to ask yourself when you are playing that tape is, are you experiencing a fact, fiction, or story? If it is fiction or story, you can change it, and that's the best part. And if it is not a fact, then whatever you are creating is a fabricated story and you got to change it. Yeah. So here are some quick 5 tips that I want to leave you with today, which help you frame a empowering, positive internal dialogue, a positive internal communication. And that is number 1, to be self-aware, to firstly consciously, and I hope after this session you watch yourself, you observe yourself over whatever time, and you write to me saying, okay, Avneet, with what you said, I have become more self-aware and I have been observing my dialogue, the tape that I'm running in my mind. So, for those of you who have just joined, I have so many of you on Instagram suddenly. You guys, today we've been talking about how to master your narrative. By narrative, I mean our self talk. It is the internal dialogue, and today we spoke about the science, the psychology behind it, and how our self talk frames the experience of our life, frames our worldview, and frames our perspective on anything and everything in life. So, some quick 5 takeaway tips for you, and that is number one, to become aware of this inner negative voice, to become aware of this inner critic. Secondly, to psychologically distance yourself from this voice. We often tend to think that whatever's happening in our mind is us. But the truth is, there are so many passing thoughts. If you don't dwell in it, if you don't wallow in it, then they are just passerbys. So that's second. Third is when you are observing your communication, external and internal, what I would like for you to do is monitor how often you use the words I don't and I can't. And it is better for you to say I don't because it's almost like it comes as a choice from your will, whereas I can't comes from a place of incapacity. So I truly hope that you observe the use of these two words. And if you have to choose between one of them, you rather choose I don't than I can't. And lastly, to take constant note of the language that you use, the kind of words that you use with others and with yourself. So, those were some quick tips to how you can master your narrative, how you can fix this jigsaw puzzle inside you, this puzzle that frames human potential, and that is your internal dialogue. So, I truly hope this session helped you out today. If you have any questions, please drop it in the comments box below or send it to me in the questions sticker and I'll take up your questions. Let me just quickly glance through the comments for today. And Rajul says to me that she's new to these mini master classes. I have tons of waves. Tarushi says, I love your shirt. Well, yesterday I wasn't really feeling up to it. I was in all the mood to can the live session. It was one of the days where I just wanted to lie in bed and do nothing. So I really didn't want to dwell in that mindset either. So I picked myself up. I wore my red shirt to get into warm colors and change my state. And I was like, no, I've committed to this. I've got to do it. So thank you for your compliment, Tarushi. Hi to Sumit, to Sushil. Once again, hi, Rahman. Everyone out here, thank you so much for joining. It's so kind of you to stop by every Saturday, especially those of you who are regularly here. And on Facebook, I have Ishita Rustagi saying the, what do you call it? Tu cheese badi hai mast mast. And Gaurav, oh, saying hello. So yes, hellos to all you guys and thank you. Hi Girish, welcome back and thank you for making it. So guys, quickly summarizing our session today, I truly hope when we talk about how to master your narrative, you truly pay attention along with your external communication where we've spoken about so many tips and strategies across the different sessions that I've done. But I truly hope that the internal dialogue is what I'm here to talk about today. And you are somebody who pays attention to your internal dialogue, to your self-talk, and you choose a positive narrative with yourself because it's the way you speak to yourself is what frames your perspective, your outlook, your outcomes in life. So speak to yourself with love, with care, with what do you call it? With a lot of love, yeah. Because ultimately, that's what can really push you to take action or not. Kamaya, how are you, girl? It's so nice to see you. You lovely cutie. Nice to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Where were we? So yes, where we are talking about where was I? We were talking about self talk and how you need to choose positive self talk. And we spoke about different strategies that you could invest in. Where, when we talk about positive internal dialogue, or we talk about positive internal communication, positive empowering language, we need to, number one, be aware of the tape that we are running in our mind. Number two is we need to distance ourselves from the different thoughts that are running in our mind. Our thoughts are passerbys, our thoughts are not us. And if we understand that simple distinction that our thoughts are passerbys, they are not, they can be changed, they can be real, they can be twisted, they can be, there's anything and everything you can do with your thoughts just because of your narrative, because your thoughts have words and imagery, and it is these two facts that create any story. It is visual imagery and language that create any story. And if you are able to pick a story that empowers you, that serves you, a story that motivates you to continuously take action, to be a high performer, then the world is, is paradise. But if you dwell in negative self-talk, if you dwell in disempowering language with yourself, your internal dialogue is what impacts your actions, behavior, and ultimately results in life. So I truly hope that's a simple message that you take away today. And until next Saturday, you need to keep telling me what more would you like to know from me. I am thinking of various topics where today I spoke about internal dialogue. Hi, Danny. Thanks for joining. Hi, Kojna. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm thinking to talk about various topics where today we spoke about how we create our perspective and the role of language that forms our narrative and forms our sense of personal story. So I'm thinking of topics like how we can change limiting belief systems, how we can manage expectations. So you are going to be receiving a lot of power packed content coming in from me in the coming weeks. So you watch out. And until we meet again, my only takeaway question, or let's say question until next week, is who is the puppet master of your story? Take control, pull the strings of your story, and create a story that serves you. Until next time, this is Avneet Kohli. Keep playing your A game, and I'll see you soon.